in that life, sometimes, you know, you never suspect or never expect people to be a certain way. Good family man, love their children, good at home, the whole bit, very courteous when they meet somebody. And then on the other end, if they have to do work, they could be pretty cold-blooded. And unfortunately, you know, my time in that life, you know, I met people that play that role, except they're not playing a role. That's really who they are. Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. All is very good, very blessed on this end. As always, I give God all the praise, honor, glory, and thanksgiving for that. I had a great weekend this past weekend. I was in New York actually for a couple of days at the Tribeca Film Festival. That's the festival that's been going on for years that Robert De Niro, that's his company, Tribeca. And every year they do this great festival. Well, Chaz invited me this year, and on Saturday, which was the finale of the festival, we went to the Beacon Theater. Beautiful theater in New York. Amazing, iconic, beautiful theater. And we watched a remake of The Bronx Tale. Now, when I say remake, they just, you know, they did some things technologically to it that just enhanced the film. And it was just great watching that movie again. It was iconic. I mean, some of the lines in that movie, it was just brilliant. And I always say that, to me, was Chaz Palminteri's best role as a gangster. You know, he reminded me of my dad. He was great. And then after it was done, they had a sit down, a Q&A with Chaz Palminteri and Bob De Niro. And it was just great. You know, they talked about the making of the movie and some of the things that happened. It was an interesting story that, you know, Chaz was struggling at that point in time, and he was doing The Bronx Tale as a one-man show. De Niro happened to be in the audience. He saw it, went into Chaz's dressing room and said, hey, I want to make this, you know, my first movie that I direct. And they started to talking about it. The rest is history. We see The Bronx Tale was Bob De Niro's directorial debut. And they talked about how well they got along on the film and so on and so forth. And one of the things that was really interesting, do you know that there was only 2 or 3 real actors in the film? Everybody else was from the neighborhood. Everybody. You know, that's how they wanted it. De Niro said, no, it's got to be authentic, you know, which is what I love to hear. And man, I knew that. You know, you can't duplicate those characters. Nobody can play it like the real guys. And they were great, you know, so it was just such a great movie. You know, one story, for those of you that seen the movie that really touched me, remember the guy Mush, the guy that was a jinx, everything he bet on lost all the time? Well, he was an actual character out of Brooklyn, right? And he passed away a couple of years ago, and Chaz told the story that when he passed away, Chaz went to the funeral. And they put the casket into the hearse, right? And they go to drive away, and what happened? The hearse had a flat tire. And Chaz said in all his years, he never seen anything like that. They had to take the casket out and get a new hearse. So even in his death, he was a jinx, you know. Just a funny story. But it was great. We had a great time. Got to meet De Niro. It was a wonderful time. Great time, you know. So it was a good evening in that regard. So a couple of things I want to just mention to you before we get into it. Number one, next couple of days, June 24th, Lorraine Palace Theater, just outside of Cleveland. I'm going to be there. We're going to have a great night Saturday night. And I just want to thank all the people from Cleveland. You have been wonderful. I really mean that. Pushing the show, so many people. We've made friends just through YouTube. YouTube is a great platform. I really appreciate your comments and all the people that follow and respond. You know, it's just great. And again, I'm sorry if I don't get back to everybody. It's impossible. We have so many messages over all our social media platforms. But know that we appreciate it very, very much. So thank you. Can't wait to meet the people of Cleveland, the people of Lorraine. So many people have come. We're going to have a great time. There could be some tickets left, so go on the Lorraine Palace Theater website and hope to see you on Saturday night. We're going to have a great time, as always. Today, in honor of James Gandolfini, you know, unfortunately passed away this past week on June 19th, 10 years ago. In honor of James Gandolfini, who was such a brilliant actor and did such a brilliant job, an iconic job as Tony Soprano in The Sopranos, I'm going to run down the 10 best scenes that Gandolfini Gandolfini was in as Tony Soprano. And you might disagree with some of them. I don't know. I looked it up, and, I've seen many, many episodes of The Sopranos. I've seen all of these episodes. If you haven't watched the series, go and watch it. You got to understand, it was that series that paved the way for all the great series that followed afterwards. Many people think it was the greatest TV series of all times. Of course, that's selective. It's a matter of people's opinion. There's been great ones after that, but that's the first one that started. I think it was 7 seasons. Started in 1999, went on to 2006 or 2007. It was great. And Gandolfini just killed the role. He was terrific in that role as Tony Soprano. Everybody will remember him for playing that role. And Chaz told me, he auditioned. I'm not sure if it was for that part, but he turned something down in The Sopranos. And he said, Michael, I have a regret, but that's the business. You just move on. And of course, he's done some very great things after that, obviously, after The Bronx Tale. But I'm going to run down these. I'd love to hear your opinion. Tell me what you think of them. He's a brilliant actor, and I think, so many people have spoken so well about him. He was just such a nice guy. I never had the opportunity to meet him, but everything, that I've heard about him, and of course, Vinny Pastore and some of the guys from Sopranos that I knew and that I've met always spoke so well of him. So let's run down those scenes and, go and look at them. We might put some little clips up here. My team does a great job. Let me read a couple of things from this article. Debuting on January 10th, 1999, The Soprano has been rated as the best TV series of all time by no less an authority than the TV Guide. I think we take their word for it. As the iconic gangster series celebrates its 20th anniversary, that was a few years back, here are some shining examples of the late James Gandolfini's finest moments as New Jersey mob boss Tony Soprano. And again, I reviewed all of these and I happen to agree. There's so many more, but these might be the 10 best. So let's go through them. If you remember the episodes. Number 1, Back to School, Season 1, College. Remember when he was taking Jamie Sigler, his daughter, to college? It was a great episode. A father-daughter road trip with Meadow to check out a potential university turns into an off-the-cuff whack job. I remember that scene. There was somebody out there that was going to be a snitch. Tony happens to see him, just by chance at a gas station. So he makes a call back. He finds him. In between touring the campus with Meadow, he tracks the rat down and brutally strangles him. In that one scene, Gandolfini gives viewers a startling glimpse into Tony's quality as loving family man and cold-blooded killer. In that life, sometimes, you never suspect or never expect people to be a certain way. Good family man, love their children, good at home, the whole bit, very courteous when they meet somebody. And then on the other end, if they have to do work, they could be pretty cold-blooded. And unfortunately, my time in that life, I met people that play that role, except they're not playing a role. That's really who they are. So that was in Season 1. So that episode, go look at it, College, Back to School. Number 2, Tony Loves Melfi. This is also Season 1. The title of the episode is Pax Soprana. During a session with his shrink, Dr. Melfi, Lorraine Bracco, brilliant role, Tony beams at her like a lovesick puppy and tells her seductively, quote, "I'm in love with you. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. I dream about you. I think about you all the time. I can't get excited about any other woman." When she politely but firmly rebuffs him, explaining his feelings aren't real. Remember, she's a psychologist, so she said, it's not real. For some reason, you're just thinking this. It's not real. Simply a byproduct of the therapy, Tony instantly morphs from a charming Casanova to an ice-cold viper. Gandolfini's chameleon-like transformation is shocking. Did you ever see anybody like that? That, they're one way, nice, sweet, wonderful, and then you rebuff them or you say something that's not right and they can turn into somebody like, who is that person? Well, Tony, remember, as an actor, he played that role brilliantly. And his easygoing charm and seeming gentleness are nothing more than a mask he puts on to achieve his own selfish ends. It's like you're two different people, People can do that. Some people are that character. Tony played that. Remember, he's acting now, He played that role brilliantly. So that's number 2. Let's go to number 3. Season 1, again, Isabella. In a climatic Season 1 scene, this was the climate, that echoes the famous assassination attempt of Vito Corleone in The Godfather, Tony realized he's being set up to be whacked, and Gandolfini's eyes convey caged animal desperation as he manages to fend off 2 hired goons with a combination of dumb luck, brute strength, and sheer will. Masterful performance in an iconic episode. I remember that. Tony was brilliant at that. I mean it. This role was his to have. There's not saying that there aren't brilliant actors that could have done, something, but You think of Tony Soprano, it's Gandolfini, without a doubt. He was brilliant. So that was season 1 again. The title of that was Isabella. Number 4, Mama's Boy, season 1 again. I Dream of Jeannie Cusimano was the title of that episode. After learning that his mother, Livia, Nancy Marchand, was behind the attempt on his life. Remember that scene? His mom was, man, what a character she was, and I hate to say this, but sometimes I think of my mom in that way. She was not nearly as brutal, but my mom was very independent. She could be so lovable one minute and the next minute, watch out. Don't get on her bad side, Well, that was Livia here. Tony goes to the hospital to confront her when he finds out that she was behind the attempt to kill him. He picks up a pillow that presumably he will use to suffocate her. She's in a hospital. Before that can happen, however, he learns that Livia, his mom, has just suffered a stroke, and he leans in close as she lay on the table. In a whisper filled with menace, he tells her, I know what you did. The only son, the middle child. I heard the tapes. Ma, the effing FBI tapes. Don't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about. He was upset. Sparks fly in this first-rate scene between two extraordinary actors, made even more impressive by the fact that Marchand doesn't speak a word, although her eyes speak volumes. Do you ever see an actor like that? They don't have to say anything. Their eyes just say it all. The expression on their face. De Niro, so great at that. Pacino, so great at that. So many actors are so brilliant. They don't have to say a word, just from the look on their face. But De Niro's known for that. Known for that. He doesn't have to say anything. That smile that he gives, the look in his eyes, brilliant. Well, that was this scene here. And she was a brilliant actress. But look at that one. He was great. Imagine your own mother behind an assassination attempt on your life. Man, he played that role brilliantly, I gotta say. That's number 4. Number 5, Fever Dream. This is in season 2, The Funhouse. Remember this? I remember this episode. Some dodgy Indian food gives Tony a bad case of food poisoning, resulting in a bizarro dream sequence on the boardwalk at the Jersey Shore. Gandolfini does some amazing work here during the dream sequences. Remember that? It was brilliant. Brilliantly written, by the way. During the dream sequence, sending Tony through pretty much the full range of human emotions. Along the way, he douses himself with gasoline and explodes. How do you write something like that? Unbelievable. Some of the writers in these series, just so brilliant. And Chaz will tell you this, anybody will tell you this in the industry, it all comes down to the writing. Sometimes the writer doesn't get enough credit because he's behind the scenes, but it's all about the script, all about the writing. It was brilliant in The Sopranos. He chats with a talking fish who actually becomes Big Pussy. Remember Big Pussy? And that was Vinny Pastore, remember? He undergoes a twisted therapy session. You know what the worst part of this is? Dream Tony asks Dream Melfi, his psychiatrist. This is one of those situations where I know that I'm dreaming. The dream is ultimately the catalyst to his realization that Pussy, played by Vincent Pastore, is a rat. Remember that? Pussy goes bad. He's talking to the FBI. And it's breathtaking to watch Tony steel himself for the task at hand after deciding he has no choice but to murder his best friend. Vinny and I are friends. I did a sit down with him. He loved Gandolfini. Had nothing but praise to say about him. And Pastore was so great in that part too, remember? He has to whack Vinny Pastore, his friend. Tough situation, man. But in that life, one of the horrors, your best friend walks you into the room, you don't walk out again. You gotta play the game properly in that life or you don't survive. And even if you do play it properly, a lot of times you don't survive. So that was a great scene. Number 6, Kill Me Now, season 3. Amor Fao or something. I can't even pronounce it. Tony's affair with Carl saleswoman Gloria Trillo, Annabella Sciorra, she was terrific, takes an ugly turn when Gloria's increasingly erratic behavior escalates. She threatens to tell Carmela about their affair. Bad scene. I remember that. She went wild with him. Poor you. And Gandolfini's eyes open in horror at the realization that Gloria is exactly like his mother. Oh my God. He went through it with his mother. Now he's going through it with Gloria. As their fight becomes more heated and more physical, it does get physical in the bedroom. I remember that. Tony becomes engulfed in rage, clamping his beefy hands around her throat, choking her until she begs him to kill her. She begged him to kill her. That's what she wanted. She wanted to die. And that freaked Tony out. He said, oh my God, I'm ready to kill this girl. She's asking me to kill her. Again, brilliantly written. Tony just gives up at that point. He doesn't know what to do. And he just sets her free, gets up and walks out. Great scene. Another highlight with that. Kill Me Now, it's called season 3. Scenes from a Marriage. This is season 4, Whitecaps. A lot of people say this could be the best role ever, Whitecaps. I mean, the best episode ever. I don't know. There's so many good ones. The deeply damaged relationship between Tony and Carmela comes to an explosive head in the season 4 finale, with both Gandolfini and Edie Falco, who was brilliant also, delivering performances of such searing intensity, the scene is at once difficult to watch, yet impossible to take your eyes off. Do you ever see scenes like that? This was one of them. The two of them are explosive in this scene. I mean, the marriage is over. It's just, according to this scene. And the two of them were so intense. Two brilliant actors doing their best possible work. It was amazing. Tony's anger has rarely been this electrifying. I don't know about that. His anger has been crazy, especially when he punctuated his point by punching a hole in the wall. I gotta be honest with you, once or twice in my life, I just got so angry, I punched the wall. Sometimes you just lose your head. It was written so brilliantly, he did it here, but that scene was explosive. They were both so brilliant in this series, really. I mean, I don't want to say it made Edie Falco, that's not fair. She was a brilliant actress, but, she really, really worked into this role brilliantly. So that was Scenes from a Marriage, Season 4, Whitecaps. Number 8, Season 6, Kennedy and Heidi. Early in the episode, Christopher, Michael Imperiale, who, by the way, is doing great for himself. He's in that White Lotus, series. I think it was 2 seasons, did a great job. He's doing great. All these actors after The Sopranos went on to do some great things, really great. He's at the wheel when he and Tony get in a car wreck. Remember that? Tony was wearing a seatbelt, emerges shaken but okay. Christopher, on the other hand, remember, seriously injured. He's sitting there, blood coming out of his mouth, and he's starting to cough up blood. When drugged up Christopher asks him to call for a taxi, I'll never pass a drug test. Tony looks in the back seat and sees the infant car seat impaled by a tree branch. That gets him crazy because he realizes now that Christopher was on drugs. He's got a car seat in the back. He would have killed the baby most likely because he saw the tree go through the car, through the child seat. Tony loses it. Shaken and seemingly disorientated, Tony gets out of the car, staggers over to the driver's side, and holds Christopher's mouth while pinching his nostril until his cousin suffocates and dies. Gandolfini manages to convey grim determination while expressing the horror of what he's doing, again without saying a word. His expressions, just his movements, his mannerism, the way he dealt with the scene. It's brilliant. Not every actor can do that. I'm going to tell you, these are brilliant actors that can convey something so intense without saying a word. Tony did it here. It was a sad scene because he had to kill his cousin, but he was a junkie. Can't be that in that life. Number 9, Goodbye to Junior, Season 6, get near the end. Made in America, the title of this episode. Gandolfini does some of his finest work in the series finale, we can keep saying that, punctuated by this scene in which Tony visits Uncle Junior, Dominic Chianese, whom he hasn't seen since Junior shot him. Remember? Junior disorientated, he had shot Tony in another scene, almost fatally. Tony was injured. Didn't mean to do it, but he did it. He thought he was an intruder or something, I don't remember. And holding a grudge ever since, Tony was mad. He's shocked and saddened to see his frail uncle, whose dementia, what a horrible disease, which led to the shooting in the first place, is now so advanced that he has no idea who Tony is. When Tony tries to explain that Junior and his father, Johnny Boy, once controlled Jersey in this thing of ours, Cosa Nostra, Junior smiles wanly and says, "That's nice." No revenge he can inflict on Junior would be worse than what old age has already dealt him. Tony leaves without saying goodbye, struggling to hold back tears of both rage and sadness. Man, just think of the emotion. Dementia is a horrible disease. My wife's grandmother had it for years. It's just so terrible to see somebody you love not recognized. I've seen people with that. I think Bruce Willis is suffering through that right now. It's a horrible disease. It really is. And eventually it does lead to somebody's death. But, Tony in this scene, hey, what worse can I do to somebody than he doesn't remember who he is or who anybody is around him that he loves? Horrible. I hope nobody ever gets afflicted by that because it is horrible to watch. And finally, lastly, our number 10 scene, and we can go on and on and on, but we kept it to 10, Fade to Black, Season 6, again, Made in America. The controversial Fade to Black scene in the season finale is also a demonstration of Gandolfini's acting chops and his familiarity with the role. He became Tony Soprano. When you're that good, you got to become that character. A family dinner at an ice cream parlor becomes an exercise in cinematic tension, and Gandolfini's casual paranoia, eyes scanning the door whenever anyone enters, is as subtle as it is compelling. Let me tell you, I don't like the ending of The Sopranos. I don't care what anybody says, and I know David Chase, you know, you had to find the meaning in that. I like to see things end so that there is no what's happening next. You know, there wasn't going to be another season. To end like that, it wasn't satisfying to me, but that doesn't take away how brilliant a job that Tony Soprano did. And let me tell you, I can kind of understand. You're sitting in a restaurant, things are high, you're in that life. Is somebody going to come in to hurt you? You watch. You know, when I was working with Major League Baseball, it was funny. It was kind of shortly after I walked away from that life, a lot of publicity, people upset with me. Well, we were visiting a lot of the Major League Baseball teams during spring training. I was talking to them about gambling. And when we would go into the restaurant, the head of security, Kevin Hallinan, who was a former detective, homicide detective, he didn't want to sit with his back to the door, you know. And I didn't care, you know, it didn't bother me at that point. But he would say that. He said, no, everything going to be okay? I said, hey, it's cool, Kevin. Don't worry about it. That was back in 1996, 97. But anyway, to wrap this up, Gandolfini, brilliant. Very, very sad day when he passed away. Again, it's 10 years ago, celebrating or mourning his anniversary of his death, I should say. I wanted to point this out as kind of a tribute to him. You know, The Sopranos was groundbreaking, amazing, and he was the star of that show. Nobody could surpass him. For sure, he made the show in many, many ways. Everybody was brilliant, don't get me wrong. But it was his show. He was just brilliant. So, hope you like it. If you haven't watched The Sopranos, you can watch it everywhere. But go see these scenes and go look at it again. Let me hear your comments. I want to know what you think. If you have another scene, let me know. Maybe we'll review it on a Mob Movie Monday. I haven't done many of them lately, but we're going to be doing them. I just want to mention, too, I met a nice guy, the producer of Gravesend, and William DeMeo. I met him at Tribeca. Season 2 is coming up. Chaz is in it. A lot of friends of mine already. You should go and watch it when it hits the air. I'll announce when it's coming on. But he was a really nice guy, and I told him I would support him in it, and we'd watch the series and do a review on it. We're going to do that. It's coming up. So that's it for today, my friends. How do I leave you? Same way. It's not going to change. Be safe. I'm not going to harp on it, but you know how I feel. Be safe. Be healthy. God bless each and every one of you. And yes, I'll see you next time. Take care.